hours ago, we've seen this drop, this declassified annex of the Durham report. I guess that's not a coincidence that Brennan and Clapper and Comey, they've all been pushing these vigorous defenses yesterday and the day before, knowing this was about to drop.
They are in full-blown panic mode. This is unbelievable, watching the rats try to scurry off the Titanic. What's happening right now is a side of the Russiagate story that has been hidden from us for 9 years, is dropping one bombshell after another. What we've seen before today's unbelievable drop, what we've seen so far this week has been essentially these missing pieces of the puzzle around what gave rise to this intelligence assessment, where all 17 intelligence agencies came out and said that Russia stole the election for Donald Trump, and that set in motion the special prosecutor, the FBI, sicked on Donald Trump for 2.5 years, rolling up dozens of people in its probe and incurring prison time on BS charges and millions of dollars of legal fees, and then hamstringing the U.S. president's foreign policy because he has to appease Congress to protect him from the FBI and from impeachments, from hundreds of millions of dollars, billions in the aggregate, that were given to U.S. universities to research the scourge of the intelligence threat that of the Russian threat that the intelligence community definitely knows was there. And that justifies the universities, Harvard and Columbia and MIT and Stanford, everyone getting tens of millions of dollars to research, dig deeper into what the intelligence community found and what to do about it, and building this giant Jenga tower of bullfrog on top of this totally cooked foundation. We saw the Obama emails. We saw the
Yes.
analysts. This just dropped yesterday, that CIA analysts said that their arms were twisted, that they were threatened, that they would not be promoted unless they changed their assessment to say that there was Russian interference when they said there wasn't. And then their bosses said, well, listen, if you want to get promoted inside the CIA, you'll say Russia hacked the election.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. That to not get promoted and that be the selling feature of selling out your country is absolutely disgusting. So this isn't even a good excuse for me. Oh, I wasn't going to get promoted if I didn't, become a traitor to my country. And then just the point on the hundreds of millions of dollars that were funneled into the education systems, higher level academia, and they didn't figure out that Russiagate was an actual hoax, just shows me the level of education that they're actually receiving at these Ivy League education systems. And hundreds of millions of dollars. Americans should be so upset about this, and the fact that they should not be holding people seriously in any of these educational institutions, and there needs to be an overhaul, absolutely. And the fact that the people would be so easily swayed, oh, you're not going to get promoted, when there's people that have lost their jobs, threats to their lives for being whistleblowers. This is just what I mean, like the level of cowardice and just how easy it is to bribe people within the highest levels of the government in all friggin' governments at this point, including Canada, is just mind-blowing to me.
And now what we're seeing,
that's the definition of politicizing the agencies.
And it's literally, this is the perfect encapsulation of, the thummy war that plays out between the Republican and Democrat Party. And then one side is losing in politics. And so they call in their little cheat code, the pointer finger, the national security state. If you have the CIA on your side and the FBI, whenever you start losing in politics, you can call in the blob. And this is what they did, where all of the stars in the sky are pointing to in the constellation of this, is that when Hillary Clinton was losing the election, losing momentum, Trump gaining in the polls in the summer of 2016, she orchestrated a plot, in the words of John Brennan in his handwritten notes from August 3rd, 2016, to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal involving Russian interference in the election using Russian security services. That was what was written on the handwritten notes of John Brennan including by John Brennan, the note that Hillary Clinton had approved this plan 5 days earlier.
Yes.
What
And
we just
even
got
funded
today,
parts of it. Now, Mike, I know that the declassified portions of the Durham report have just been dropped today, earlier today. And I know, and I will be tuning in to your broadcast because I know you do very long deep dives into what this is. What is your initial reaction to some of the first few pages you're looking at on this report?
I'm shell shocked. I'm only 4.5 pages into this 29-page release from Chuck Grassley. What we got today was the basis for John Brennan's handwritten notes. John Brennan was the CIA director, and we have been wondering since the Durham report and since the publication of the fact that John Brennan had this handwritten note saying actually Russiagate started with Hillary Clinton making this false flag attempt to paint Trump as a Russian asset, and then magically the FBI and CIA launch an investigation that suddenly turns the false flag into a real intelligence community. It's like they knew that Hillary Clinton was cooking it up and that she didn't have supporting evidence for it. And so the CIA and FBI simply declare it as fact so that you don't even need to prove the case. And then they classified the evidence so that even the low-level and mid-level CIA and FBI counterintelligence analysts couldn't even see what the basis of the intelligence assessment conclusion was. And then we just found out this week the basis for it was the Steele dossier. The P dossier was the whole reason that they changed it from Russia had no impact on the election to Russia hacked the whole thing, something that John Brennan swore up and down was not true. Now we have it in hard, cold emails. But what just dropped today was the basis of John Brennan's handwritten notes. How did Brennan know, or why did Brennan say on August 3rd that Hillary Clinton had approved a plan to launch this false flag that Trump was backed by?
You know what? And that's not even an excuse that like these documents, like things were classified at a higher level than like most people within the FBI, well, the intelligence communities as a whole, or even academia were able to access, because Mike Benz got it right from the beginning, I believe. At least I did. Again, I've only been following Mike Benz for a little while now, but he's incredible. And I was talking about it. So many people were talking about it that are part of the quote unquote truther community. I hate even calling it that word. And so how did we get it right? So there's no excuses there. And this is not a brag by any means, not even remotely. It's just showing just the ineptitude of people at the highest levels. And so you can imagine the House of Representatives not doing their jobs, the House of Commons not doing their jobs, and looking more into things. And again, how many policies and bills were implemented or put forth regarding the Russiagate hoax and changing the way people vote, et cetera, and the impact on the voting systems. How many committees were put together with millions of dollars in that to assess how to circumvent the Russiagate hoax happening again, et cetera. It was all bullshit. So much taxpayers' dollars was put into this. And I keep on, and I hate that I do this with Bannon and Brennan. I keep on mistaking them, which I should not do. But anyways, Brennan, an absolute criminal, and should absolutely be seeing jail. And so should Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
Russians, and what we just learned, what we're learning this morning, and again, I'm only 4.5 pages into this, but already it's eye-popping, was that the CIA discovered that Russia had hacked George Soros's Open Society Foundation Eurasia Center director. And it was that man, Leonard Bernardo, who was the head of the Open Society Institute Eurasia Center, who had said that Hillary Clinton had approved this plan to paint Trump as being backed by the Russians and Russians interfering in the election. So this was not some random anonymous source. This was the head of the Eurasia Center for George Soros's Open Society. Institute. George Soros, the biggest donor to Hillary Clinton. George Soros, the biggest donor for the entire Democrat Party. George Soros, the man who personally economically raped Russia in the 1990s, who personally claimed that his wealth was built on the back of replacing the Russian Empire with the Soros Empire. And it's his own institute working in tandem with Hillary Clinton in order to start Russiagate. It's unbelievable. And the CIA knew it.
And they knew this. I mean, they knew this whole time.
My jaw is dropping. I have said this whole time it was about seize Eurasia. This is why we're at war in Ukraine. This is why the war will never end. We will be at war in Ukraine and Eurasia for 70 years because George Soros and his little hedge fund buddies want to take the $75 trillion of natural resource wealth in Eurasia, and they will stop at nothing to get it because it's all about the money, honey. And it doesn't matter what the predicate is, whether or not there's human rights violations or threats to democracy. They don't give a flying fig about that. They want to take it over, to take the money. That's why this came special. This is why this came from the Eurasia Center. The attack Russia forever.
And obviously this is going to take. Yeah, no, this is going to take a much longer breakdown because you're just at the beginning of this. I urge our audience, tune in to Mike Benz's breakdown of what is playing out here in this declassified annex, because this all goes back to Ukraine. It explains a lot about what Ukraine and Biden and Obama were up to out there. It explains so much. Mike Benz, we're all out of time. We will be tuning in. We'll be watching what you uncover as you go through this declassified annex of the Durham report. Until then, my friend, thank you very much. Keep up the good fight.
So here's the declassified report. Because, yes, of course I have it. So this is from the 12th of May, 2023, so over 2 years ago. Authorized for public release by Chairman Grassley. So just to prove this is not still classified. Because the report on matters related to intelligence activities and investigations arising out of the 2016 presidential campaigns. Okay, so intro. This classified appendix forms a part of the report on matters related to intelligence activities and investigations arising out of the 2016 presidential campaigns and provides further information about the matters covered in 3 sections of the report. Section 4, C1, investigative referral of possible Clinton campaign plan. Section 4B1, the threat of foreign election influence by foreign governments. And Section 4D, the page FISA application renewals. So Section 4C1, investigative referral of possible Clinton campaign plan. This section provides further factual background about the possible Clinton campaign plan described in the office's report, the office's effort to verify or refute the information about the plan, and the manner in which department officials received and acted on or did not act on the campaign plan information. The office's prosecution decisions related to the plan are described in Section 4C2 of the unclassified report. Sensitive intelligence background. Beginning in or about 2014, what an interesting year to start, and continuing through at least in or about 2016, individuals affiliated with Russian intelligence services hacked and gained unlawful access to emails of numerous U.S. public and private entities. 2014 was when there was a state-unplanned coup in Ukraine that did involve intelligence assets from NATO and shaping the type of scenario they wanted to justify going to war, a proxy war that again only profits the military, pharmaceutical, industrial tech complex. But anyway, so classified by John H. Durham. So it's blocking out the derived from and declassified on. So the OSC has carefully coordinated the classification review of the unclassified reports, and this document with blacked out. Based on that coordination and the reviews, the whatever this says concur with classifications. Access to emails of numerous U.S., okay, I already talked about that, including government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and think tanks based in the U.S. Among the nonprofit organizations hacked by Russian government actors in 2016 was the Open Society Foundations, and that's with George Soros. I've talked about that for many years. This is an umbrella philanthropy organization that is used to funnel money, to blackmail, to bribe, kickbacks, etc. Okay, so from blank through blank, received from a blank source referred to herein as TI, and shared with the FBI. Intelligence consisting of, again, not sharing it, hacking of US-based communications, reports analyzing the hacked US materials and what appear or purport to be original hacked emails of US persons or portions of emails. So 2 of the apparently hacked emails appear to have originated from the Open Society Foundations. The purported author of these emails was Leonard Bernardo, who was the regional director for Eurasia at the Open Society Foundations. In that capacity, Bernardo oversaw efforts relating to Russia and the former Soviet republics, among other countries. Beginning in 2016, the FBI received information from TI relating to the 2016 US presidential election, including blank reports. Government agencies have needed to translate some of the sensitive intelligence. More than one agency has translated some of the items. All right, report or interview, headquarters analysis, 2019. OSC report of interview of Leonard Bernardo on May 21st, 2021. (2016) TI provided the U.S. government with 2 blank memoranda that described confidential conversations between then Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz and 2 individuals at the Open Society Foundation. Again, this is a propaganda arm. Referred to the memoranda as the Soros Foundation. Bernardo and Jeffrey Goldstein, who, according to public sources, was senior policy advisor for Eurasia at the Open Society Foundations. Okay, so January 12th of this year, during a confidential discussion with Jeffrey Goldstein, a representative of the Soros Foundation on Eurasia, Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz characterized the situation in her party in light of the growing scandal surrounding Hillary Clinton as follows. Information released to the media in the last few days about FBI investigating possible corruption relating to Department of State under the leadership of Clinton, preferential treatment of donors of the Clinton Foundation, and that's another one, Clinton Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the We Foundation for Canada, a significant negative reaction inside the party. At the same time, the leadership of the DP, Democratic Party, had known about the information since June of 2015, according to Wasserman Schultz. FBI so far does not have persuasive evidence against Hillary Clinton because of the timely deletion of relevant data from mail servers. So this is around the time that Hillary Clinton, again, and this is illegal as well, but deleted, I think it was over 60,000 emails, even from private servers that she was using, and you're not supposed to, but they all do. And in-person meetings as well, just so there's no records. Obama has no intention to darken the final part of his presidency and legacy by the scandal surrounding the main contender from DP, and so he was part of it. To solve the problem, the president puts pressure on FBI directors James Comey through Attorney General Lynch, however, so far without concrete results. Comey gravitates towards Republicans and apparently intends to prolong the investigation so that the scandal would keep going until the presidential election to jeopardize the chances of the DP to win the presidential race. So again, I wasn't jeopardizing the chance of the DP to win the presidential race. It was the Republican Party. So, okay, so see generally classified appendix document 2. See also Jeff Goldstein, while a good man sits in prison. Open Society Foundations, May 16, 2010. Jeff Goldstein, the World Bank risks dirtying its hands in Uzbekistan. International Labor Rights Foundation, June 16, 2014, both identifying Goldstein's position. So I'm going to be taking a look at all this as well. Okay, so the March 2016 memorandum, which was Russian, whatever that says, stated in relevant part, during confidential contracts on March 5th with Leonard Bernardo, Soros Fund Eurasian Regional Director Debbie Wasserman Schultz, chairperson of the National Committee of the Democratic Party, characterized developments in the pre-election campaign of Hillary Clinton in the following way. In relation to the consensus reached among the Democratic Party leadership regarding the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama sanctioned the use of all administrative levers to remove possibly negative effects from the FBI investigation of cases related to the Clinton Foundation and email correspondence in the State Department. Based upon information from Wasserman Schultz, the FBI does not possess any kind of direct evidence against Clinton, which again was bullshit, because of their timely deletion of the email servers. Bullshit. The political director of the Hillary Clinton staff, Amanda Renteria, regularly receives information from Attorney General Loretta Lynch on the plans and intentions of the FBI. Active work is being done questioning potential witnesses who are mostly computer specialists in the Clinton private circle. They represent the only tools which may be used in this matter. Therefore, this threat is minimal. DNC predicts a certain Clinton victory in the current presidential campaigns. Yeah, okay, wrong about that too. The impressive results of Donald Trump are dividing the Republican Party elite, which find itself in a near panic condition. A two-pronged DP opposition is focused on discrediting Trump through debates and propaganda activities based on his weak points, such as his uncontrollable temperament, questionable instances in business dealings, absence of diplomatic skills, lack of political experience. Among other things, the Clinton staff, with support from special services, is preparing scandalous revelations of business relations between Trump and the Russian mafia, quote unquote. Currently, they are studying his connections with Aris Agalarov, owner of a group of companies, Crocus Group. Timur Sapir, a deceased businessman of Russian heritage, suspected to have had ties to the Italian mafia. Tevfik Arif, owner of Bayrock Groups, suspected of being involved in prostitution and human trafficking from former USSR, and Telman Ismailov, AST Group. With regard to the discussion in the last paragraph of this memorandum of scandalous revelations that the Clinton staff was preparing with support from special services, quote unquote, the words that FBI linguists translated as special services are Russian words that one analyst believed at the time referred to the FBI and the CIA, or more broadly to the intelligence and law enforcement communities. Another analyst, caveating that it was speculation, said that perhaps the phrase special services in this context could refer to Trump's dossier author, Christopher Steele, who, according to media reports and Steele's own testimony in UK legal proceedings, formerly worked as an intelligence professional for the British government. In addition, the office has determined that at the time of this memorandum, Glenn Simpson's firm, Fusion GPS, was in fact preparing open source opposition research regarding Trump's purported ties to Russian oligarchs. And then get more stuff blacked out. On March 31st, 2016, FBI personnel, including Deputy Director McCabe, Deputy General Counsel Anderson, Assistant Director for the Cyber Division James Traynor, and the Director's Chief of Staff James Rybicki, shared the intelligence information with Associate Deputy Attorney General David Margolis, the highest-ranking career official in the department, and other senior career officials at the department. The FBI briefed Margolis on the specifics of the sensitive intelligence and informed him that the FBI assessed the information to likely not be credible. The FBI's assessment, according to McCabe, and later memorialized by Anderson in an August 12, 2016 memorandum, discussed below, was used on 4 factors. First, the reports reflected multiple levels of hearsay. Ridiculous. Second, someone involved in the communication or in passing along the communication to someone at a think tank may have engaged in exaggeration. And third, the blank who drafted the reports may have engaged in editorialization or exaggeration, could be the intelligence communities. Fourth, reports may be unreliable because of translation errors. Interesting. After that meeting, the FBI, blank, et al., sought any additional related information from T1. T1 had no responsive information. At this time, the FBI considered taking a number of covert investigative steps to determine, among other things, whether the Attorney General had in fact communicated with Amanda Renteria, the political director of the Hillary Clinton staff, referenced in the blank memorandum. What memorandum is this? The FBI ultimately decided not to take these steps, Comey, another criminal and traitor to the US and the world, excuse me, told the OIG that the FBI did not pursue these steps because the information in blank reports was not credible on its face. In this regard, Tricia Anderson told investigators that the director had said the assertion that the Attorney General was pressuring him in connection with the mid-year exam investigation gave him doubts about the credibility of the two documents. Okay, that's very interesting. He also understood that Margolis's view was that pursuing such steps would take us down the path where we're investigating the Attorney General of the United States. So, and that Margolis thought that you ought to have more of a reason to go forward with it than you have. The blank FBI received additional information from T1 regarding a possible Clinton campaign, or TI. After receiving the initial intelligence in blank 2016, FBI subsequently received additional intelligence from T1. In particular, in late July 2016, blank received a blank report that summarized blank certain hacked emails allegedly sent by Leonard Bernardo of the Open Society Foundations. Again, propaganda. Memoranda from Tricia Anderson to mid-year exam case file. Read conversations regarding two blank reports, August 12th, 2016. OSC report of interview of Tricia Anderson on 26 May 2021 at 4, but CF. OSC report of interview of James Baker on June 8th, 2021 at 3. Baker did not necessarily agree with the view that the two reports were likely not credible. Okay, and so OIG review of 2016 election actions, Appendix 1 at 11. Regrettably, Mr. Margolis passed away on July 14th, 2016. OSC report of interview of IC Officer 2 on July 8th, 2020 at 6:08. OSC report of interview of Headquarters Analyst 3 on December 10th, 2019 at 1:04. Okay, so it's probably naming. Okay, at the time, Smith worked at the Center of New American Security, CNAS, and was serving as a Clinton campaign foreign policy advisor. OSC reports of interview of Julianne Smith on July 21st, 2021. She advised investigators that she never received notification that her account was hacked, but was aware that CNAS was regularly challenged by friends in China and Russia. In context, it appears blank memorandum incorrectly referred to Julianne Smith as Juliana Smith. To cover up a special unit of the GRU, General Staff Main Intelligence Directorate of the Russian Federation Defense Ministry's General Staff, during the first stage of the campaign, due to lack of direct evidence, it was decided to disseminate the necessary information through the FBI-affiliated attic-based technical structures that are involved in cybersecurity, in particular the CrowdStrike and Threat Connect companies, from where the information would then be disseminated through leading U.S. publications. In addition, it is presumed in the FBI that in the future any clumsy propaganda campaign by the GRU is bound to lead to the emergence of more reliable indications of Moscow's involvement, which would imminently intensify the U.S. confrontational tendencies towards Russia. So any clumsy propaganda campaign, why are they saying that would emerge more reliable indications of? Anyway, it's propaganda. Okay, so a lot more blacked out. Memorandum contains blank, a reference to the Atlantic Council, a think tank based in Washington, D.C. Think tank in Washington, D.C. sounds like an oxymoron. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, according to an FBI analyst interviewed by the office, blank, the hacked U.S. institution that was the source of relevant U.S. communications. Okay, so as discussed above, the document contained a purported email by Bernardo appears to have been partially based. Notably there, blank of the document, which contained the following text: Leonard Bernardo, sent July 25th, 2016. Hi, the media analysis on the DNC hacking appears solid. This is an important story because it would be the first time that we know of that a state deliberately uses the infiltration and publication of data to interfere with U.S. elections. At the same, politicization is on the table. I have been a bit surprised that nobody has mentioned this 18-month-long story yet in their analysis and makes explicit reference to US elections at the end. Julie says it will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump. Now it is good for a post-convention bounce. Later, the FBI will put more oil into the fire. Interesting. Outcome is far from clear as Americans are more keen on their own woes, and Hillary is hardly looking good as far as credibility is concerned. Anyway, things are ghastly for U.S.-Russian relations. Lenny blank also received from T1 a slightly different version of this email. This version includes the statement that later the FBI will put more oil into the fire and contains an added sentence. So this appears to be a reference to the Clinton foreign policy advisor referenced in the blank memorandum, Julianne Smith. Anyways, I'm going to keep reading through this, just like Mike Benz is doing. And, okay, so great. A whole bunch of material appeared in the press today regarding the subject. It appears that the noose around Guccifer's Russian background is tightening. I suggest doing something about a task from someone I don't know. Some dark forces like the FBI, for instance, or better yet, Clinton sympathizers in IC, Pentagon, Deep State, or somewhere else, about American websites deploying a campaign to demonize the actions of Russia's GRU, acting in accordance to order by VVP, TN Vladimir Putin, to undermine the forces of good in the elections in the interest of Donald Trump, who is basically an agent of influence. Using inept GRU operatives, there is such information, and their general inclination to adventurism and idiocy, a number of crucial technical indications pointing to Russia were exposed, and so on. Will that be okay? Okay, how Clinton was attempting to vilify Moscow and discredit Putin and Trump. Okay, to illuminate how. Yeah, it's very interesting. The email attached the following English text in a document, which appears to be another email from Bernardo, bearing a date of July 27th, 2016. Hi, HRC approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russia hackers hampering U.S. elections. So Julia's idea, interesting. That should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. The point is making the Russian play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election to feel menace, since both POTUS and VPOTUS have acknowledged that the fact IC would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. However, there seems to be signs of GRU penetration from these people. They appear hardly skilled, incompetent, bumbling idiots, as somebody called them. As somebody called them. I'm not going to say who, but yeah, somebody called them an idiot, so they're an idiot. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media, and GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts. Wow. Painting the picture, steering committees, writing the scripts, and then executing the play. The authenticity of the Bernardo emails. And how many people have died in Russia, Ukraine? Yeah. Yeah. And what would have happened? Oh my God, these elections. This is such a joke. The office interviewed numerous FBI and other intelligence communities personnel who were involved in Crossfire Hurricane or related intelligence efforts to determine whether they could shed light on the potential reliability or unreliability of the information about the possible Clinton campaign plan. Certain intelligence, I don't know, blanked out, but intelligence analysts and officers whom the office interviewed and who were well versed in the sensitive intelligence collection stated that their best assessment was that the Bernardo emails were likely authentic. Multiple analysts noted that the Russians had in fact hacked Bernardo's emails. Some analysts also noted it was possible, however, the Russians might have fabricated or altered purported U.S. emails. But some of these analysts also noted that the sensitive intelligence was blanked out. In addition, the office obtained records from a number of non-profit organizations. Of course they did. Of course they did. And think tanks that, as noted above, were the victims of hacks by Russian intelligence to determine the accuracy of the sensitive intelligence and whether it is and whether it in fact reflected an actual plan by the Clinton campaign. These included, among others, the Open Society Foundations, the Atlantic Council, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, what an oxymoron, and the Center for a New American Security, collectively the think tanks, where there's no thinking done, it's conspiring, it's shaping, it's maneuvering, fabricating. Notably, the office was unable to locate in the records from the think tanks any exact versions of the Bernardo emails obtained through the T1. The office did, however, identify certain email attachments and documents that contain language and references with the exact same or similar verbiage to the materials referenced above. For instance, on July 25th, 2016, the same date as one of the emails purportedly from Bernardo, Tim Moorer, a Carnegie Endowment cyber expert, replied to an email asking for Moorer's opinion on an article titled "The Hacks We Can't See. All signs point to Russia being behind the DNC hack." Like, think tank? Really? Cyber expert? Really? 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 My God. Moorer began. Sorry, I'm not saying this with any type of ego, or I'm like, oh, look at me, like I was able to like look at this, figure this out, and these people weren't. It's just it's really frustrating that we have so many people that have these top secret level clearances that are part of these think tanks or these expert consultant groups or analysts or advisors, intelligence communities all over the friggin' world. But like I'm more like focused on NATO, like Canada, the US, etc. And these people have no friggin' business being in these positions. They have no idea what they're doing or what they're talking about. I would much rather have someone like Sam Cooper or Mike Benz or myself in this doing like part of these think tanks than these friggin' morons. They've got 9/11 wrong. They got January 6th wrong. They got the Freedom Convoy wrong. They got so many things friggin' wrong. And yeah, there needs to be an overhaul. So many people need to get fired and jailed. Because even in Canada, even when I was in the military, like respectfully, like there are some good people within the intelligence community, but not a lot, and they're not in positions to affect any type of change or expose the reality of what's going on in places. And for the most part, we largely called the intelligence community within Canada a joke, right? Like oh yeah, you got you got intel from the intelligence community. Okay, yeah, so like let's just friggin' like rip this report up because they have no idea what they're talking about. They're not accurately assessing what's going on the ground. And but we pay them a lot of money and they got their medals just beside us, people in the combat arms. They're friggin' desk jobs. And again, I'm just being a little bit of a hater here. I shouldn't, but because again, it's like people who serve should be respected. But again, if you're worried about your promotions and you're worried about getting fired, etc., like then you're in these types of organizations, you're not doing your job. Tim Moorer, a Carnegie Endowment cyber expert, replied to emails for Moore's opinion. Yeah, so like I already said that. In addition to this email from Moorer, the think tank records also contained a July 27, 2016 email from Julianne Smith, the Clinton campaign advisor, in which Smith circulated a draft public statement to certain of her think tank colleagues. In the email, which Smith sent the day after Clinton's purported authorized the above referenced plan, Smith urged her colleagues to sign the draft statement that criticized Trump for his comments about the NATO alliance and asserted that Trump's public statements concerning NATO were too friendly towards Russia. In her cover email, Smith wrote in part, "We are writing to enlist your support for the attached public statement." Wow, we are writing to enlist your support. "Both of us are Hillary Clinton supporters and advisors, but hope that this statement could be signed by a bipartisan group." Wow, you want someone else's name on this just because you know you can't push it yourself and get any type of approval or support. Donald Trump's repeated denigration of the NATO alliance, his refusal to support our Article 5 obligations to our European allies, and his kid-glove treatment of Russia and Vladimir Putin are among the most reckless statements made by a presidential candidate in memory. Well, you don't have a good memory then, Julianne Smith. You sound kind of dumb and conspiratorial, and I hope you get in jail. During the same week, Clinton's campaign manager, Robbie Mook, stated in media, and again, I'm not even in support of what Trump's doing. Largely, I said if I was in the U.S., I would have absolutely voted for him before Kamala Harris, because he was the best of the worst. I can't believe anyway. I can't believe the reason why he's been put in place, but I don't think he's doing particularly a great job on certain things. I think he has a bias. I don't think he's the one that's truly in charge in the U.S. It's clear to me every single day, especially with who he has in his staff. But you don't have to smear people and lie. As noted above, and by the way, Hillary Clinton is should be in jail. So if we want to talk about like the worst possible presidents, Hillary Clinton was significantly worse than Trump. Like, if you can even believe that. And she is an absolute criminal on so many different levels: weapons trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking. Like, that family is involved in that stuff. Organized crime. Taxpayers' expense. So when Bernardo was shown redacted versions of the purported emails from the sensitive intelligence, Bernardo stated that they did not look familiar to him. And goes on from there. Oh, although Bernardo does not possess a security clearance, the office received one-time authorization from blank to show Bernardo these materials without disclosing to him how they were obtained. Okay, so that's a breach right there. I have top secret government clearance, and I had to go through so many different steps. I had to go through applying for the classified, and then secret, and then you get into top secret, and there's a lot more information and assessments that are put in place. Again, this takes months, if not over a year, to get these clearances. And so for someone to just get like a blanket approval, like one-time approval, without people investigating his background, it is just, again, mind-blowing to me. And it shouldn't be. So Jesse Human, Clinton campaign manager, questions Russian involvement in email leak. The hell? Oh my God, oil into the fire. Bernardo also did not know who Julie referred to in the July 25th, 2016 purported emails. Bernardo stated that, to the best of his recollection, he did not draft the emails. Interesting. Bernardo stated, however, that the last sentence in the email, noting that things are ghastly for U.S.-Russian relations, sounded like something he would have said. In an interview with The Office, Moore likewise was shown the purported emails from Bernardo. Again, this might be a setup. Moore stated that he did not write either email. He acknowledged, however, writing the above-referenced July 25th, 2016 email identified in the Carnegie Endowment production. He also acknowledged that portions of the language in the July 25th, 2016 email obtained through T1 collection and purported to be from Bernardo were identical to language in Moore's email of the same date to his colleagues. Finally, The Office interviewed Julianne Smith. Smith stated that she neither drafted nor recalled receiving either of the purported Bernardo emails. Smith stated that she did not specifically remember proposing a plan to Clinton or other campaign leadership to try to tie Trump to Putin or Russia. Smith stated, however, that it was possible that she had proposed ideas on these topics to the campaign's leadership, who may have approved those ideas. Oh my God, these people are so slimy. Smith recalled conversations with others in the campaign expressing their genuine concerns that the DNC hack was a threat to the electoral system, and that Trump and his advisors appeared to have troubling ties to Russia. Smith said it was also possible someone proposed an idea of seeking to distract attention from the investigation into Secretary Clinton's use of private email server, but she did not specifically remember any such idea. No, of course not. I don't recall. Just like Fauci. Smith said, however, that she was certain any proposal she made to the Clinton campaign seeking to highlight issues concerning Trump and Russia would not have included an effort to enlist the FBI in furtherance of these efforts. In addition, The Office interviewed Clinton herself and several former members of the Clinton campaign using the sensitive intelligence materials declassified by the DNI regarding the purported plan approved by Clinton. In reviewing the July 2016 declassified sensitive intelligence material, Clinton stated that it looked like Russian disinformation to her. Of course it did. Campaign chair John Podesta, and also a friggin' traitor and criminal, stated that he had not seen the declassified materials before, characterized the information as ridiculous, and denied that the campaign was involved in any such plan. Senior policy advisor Jake Sullivan stated that he had not seen the declassified memorandum before and had no reaction to it other than to say, "That's ridiculous." They always say that. That's ridiculous. That's preposterous. Yeah, it is. And so the fact that you are doing it is ridiculous and preposterous. All right. So, although admitting that the campaign was broadly focused on Trump and Russia, Sullivan could not recall anyone articulating a strategy or plan to distract negative attention away from Clinton by tying Trump to Russia, but could not conclusively rule out the possibility. Communications Director Jennifer Palmieri stated that she had never seen the memorandum before, found its contents to be ridiculous. It's like they've all, been groomed to say the same thing, and could not recall anything like this related to the campaign. Palmieri stated that Podesta, Sullivan, Mook, and herself were aware of a project involving ties between Trump and Russia being conducted by Perkins Coie, but Palmieri did not think that Clinton was aware of it. Nor did Palmieri receive any direction or instructions from her about it. Foreign Policy Advisor 2 confirmed that the campaign was focused on Trump and Russia, but that focus was due to national security concerns. Of course it was, and not designed to distract the public from Clinton's server issue. Of course not. Of course not. Foreign Policy Advisor 2 stated that she did not have a conversation with Clinton about a plan involving Trump and Russia during the Democratic Convention, that she did not remember Clinton approving anything concrete, but that Foreign Policy Advisor 2 would not necessarily have been involved in such strategy conversations. The office's review of certain communications involving Smith provided possible additional support, however, to the notion that the Clinton campaign was engaged in an effort or plan in late July 2016 to encourage scrutiny of Trump's purported ties to Russia, and that the campaign might have wanted or expected the FBI or other agencies to aid that effort, put more oil into the fire by commencing a formal investigation of the DNC hack. For example, on July 5th, 2016, Foreign Policy Advisor 2 emailed campaign advisors Smith, Clinton Campaign Advisor 1, and Clinton Campaign Advisor 2, in which she wrote, "We're looking for ways to build on Franklin Foer's great and scary piece on Trump and Russia. One thing I've heard from a few folks is that the Russia desk at State has been tracking and sounding an internal alarm about parallels between rhetoric, words, methods that Trump uses and Putin-supported European right-wing candidates." Ridiculous. I'm told it goes beyond just populist stuff. I'd like to get my hands on details of what they are seeing. Can one of you help run this down? I imagine INR or IC might also have some insight. Obviously need to be a bit careful here, but eager to get specifics or details. Foreign Policy Advisor 2 stated that she did not speak with anyone at the State Department about the issue. The information she mentioned in this email regarding the State Department's Russian desk came from outside advisor. In addition, on July 25th, 2016, the same day as the purported email from Bernardo stating that Julie says it will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump, and later the FBI will put more oil into the fire, Smith had the following text message exchange with Foreign Policy Advisor 2. Can you see if Special Assistant to the President and National Security Council member will tell you if there is a formal FBI or other investigation into the hack? And then from Julianne Smith, she won't say anything more to me. Sorry, told me she went as far as she could. Do you have others who might? Has Clinton campaign advisor tried her? Curious if she would react differently to him. I can also try OVP, Office of the Vice President. They might say more. Interesting. From Foreign Policy Advisor 2. I don't know if he has, but can ask. Would also be good to try OVP and anyone in IC, the intelligence community. Julianne Smith left messages for OVP, but Politico just sent me a push notification stating that they are indeed investigating. Yeah, Politico. FBI just put our statement. Thanks. So from telephone number, obviously not going to give it. So the office's best assessment is that the July 25th and July 27th emails that purport to be from Bernardo were ultimately a composite of several emails that were obtained through Russian intelligence hacking of the US-based think tanks, including the Open Societies Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, and others. Indeed, as discussed above, the language from Tim Moore's email of July 25th is identical to language contained in Bernardo's purported emails of the same date. Furthermore, given Smith's extensive contacts to the think tank community, her public role as a foreign policy advisor for for the Clinton campaign and her communications with think tank colleagues regarding Trump, it is a logical deduction that blank Smith was at minimum playing a role in the Clinton campaign's efforts to tie Trump to Russia. Indeed, Smith's July 27th email to her think tank colleagues regarding Trump, Russia, and NATO, the day after candidate Clinton allegedly approved a plan to tie Trump to Russia, certainly lends at least some credence that such a plan existed. Moreover, Smith's text messages exchanged with Foreign Policy Advisor 2 supports the notion that the campaign might have wanted or expected the FBI or other agencies to aid that effort, put more oil into the fire, by commencing a formal investigation of the DNC hack. So, all involved. So, in the days and weeks following receipt of the sensitive intelligence from TI, multiple high-ranking U.S. officials received reports and briefings conveying or summarizing a lot of bullshit propaganda. But anyways, among other information, the intelligence concerning the purported plan by the Clinton campaign. For instance, on August 3rd, 2016, during a meeting with the White House, CIA Director Brennan, a traitor to your country, briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, DNI Clapper, FBI Director Comey, and other U.S. officials regarding Russian interference efforts, as well as the TI intelligence received concerning the reference plan by the Clinton campaign. All of these people are guilty of treason. And if they don't get jail, no one is going to take this government seriously ever again in the history of the world. Not to exaggerate, but it's a fact. People are exhausted with so much criminality coming out of the highest levels of government, intelligence communities, the friggin' president's office, and nothing being done about it. Rules for thee, but not for me. It's not working anymore. Jail. And it's because they've taken a lot of our taxpayers' money in order to get wealthy and insider trading. It's just mind-blowing. So they just can afford to just buy off people or not promote people and threaten people, and they just get away with it. Abusing their positions instead of actually working for the people like they're supposed to. All right, so this is all just bullshit. We're getting additional insights into Russian activities that cite alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26 of a proposed plan from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming Russian interference by the Russian security services. Just this in alone, unbelievable. But not. Again, we've been talking about this for years. Almost 10 years for this information to get out. And the mind-blowing thing is that there's going to be so many people in academia and people within government that are still, till this day, and even like 10 years from now, they're still going to believe the Russiagate hoax because they don't follow up. Right, so even through COVID, we have a lot of people that are like on booster number 9, still wearing masks, still believe the Freedom Convoy was some kind of a terrorist organization. Selfish, ignorant people that are too lazy to follow up and look at additional research, not understanding that there are false flag events that happen all the time, that there are steering committees and propaganda arms that work within the government at the highest levels now. CSIS now involved at the highest levels of utilizing misinformation to paint a bullshit picture of Canadian threats. They did it during the Freedom Convoy. They're doing it again now with an attack on female social media influencers that have more of a conservative traditional background and promoting organic growing of food, raising a family, like things that people should be promoting in an advanced, evolved society, but no, now they are being painted as radicals and extremists. Okay, so approximately 4 years later, in September 2020, the DNI declassified certain information related to the sensitive intelligence. In a letter to Senator Lindsey Graham, the DNI declassified, among other things, that in late July 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis alleging that U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the Democratic National Committee. The IC does not know the accuracy of this allegation or the extent to which the Russian intelligence analysis may reflect exaggeration or fabrication. The DNI also declassified a portion of former CIA Director Brennan's handwritten notes that describe the August 3rd, 2016 meeting with President Obama. And the CIA referral memorandum sent the Director Comey and Deputy Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok, my goodness, STRZOK, Struck, Zuck, Zuck, Zuck. The FBI provides a defensive briefing to Attorney General Lynch. On July 12, 2016, FBI personnel, including Deputy Director McCabe and Deputy General Counsel Anderson, briefed Deputy Attorney General Yates and others about the T1 information. While the consensus amongst the group was that the information was not credible, the decision was ultimately made by Yates to brief Attorney General Lynch on the TI information. Then on August 10, 2016, after receiving the initial reports from TI, McCabe and Anderson provided a defensive briefing to Attorney General Lynch regarding the T1 information. McCabe and Anderson gave the Attorney General copies of the January and March 2016 reports to review. For unknown reasons, Lynch was not shown the July 25th and 27th Bernardo emails describing the plan by the Clinton campaign to link Trump to Russia. When interviewed by the office, Anderson stated that the best of her recollection, she never saw the Bernardo emails, but noted that they would have been helpful for her interview with Attorney General Lynch. According to Anderson, Lynch denied knowing Renteria, the Clinton campaign official, but did not deny or comment to the broader assertions in the scandal. So you've got Ratcliffe letter, Brennan notes, a CIA referral dated September 7th, 2016. Unbelievable. Reports concerning efforts to improperly influence the department's investigations, according to McCabe in his interview with the OIG. She read blank reports, and I will probably never forget, she just finished reading them and said, okay, I mean, like, I expected more of a reaction than that. Like, I expected, like, this is crazy. I never talked to that person. But she was absolutely stone-faced and said nothing about the content of the memos, which I don't know how to interpret that. McCabe added that he thought the Attorney General's reaction to the substance of the reports was odd. Anderson similarly told the OIG that she found it a little bit weird that the Attorney General did not affirmatively disavow the contents of said reports, and that she, Anderson, and McCabe had discussed the circumspect nature of her response. In an interview with the office, Anderson described Attorney General Lynch as being a little surprised at what she read, providing that Anderson noted as a measured response. Anderson also stated that she, Anderson, was struck by the fact that the Attorney General pronouncing the name Renteria, the Clinton campaign official, in a peculiar fashion. Additionally, Anderson recalled telling McCabe on the walk back to FBI headquarters that the Attorney General's response to the reports was odd. Anderson based this assessment on the fact that the Attorney General did not seem visibly outraged, nor did she, the Attorney General, denounce or object to the contents of the reports relating to her alleged contacts with the Clinton campaign. Okay, so she was being asked to examine it with the OIG interviewers. Lynch believed that McCabe and Anderson showed her something more abbreviated and told her up front that she was being provided a defensive briefing concerning a collection of materials that were not deemed to have investigative value. She had the distinct impression from McCabe that the reports were not credible and may be in fact fake, maybe fake. Furthermore, the FBI informed Lynch that there were no plans to further investigate or pursue the suggestions in the reports, that she had been working with Renteria to influence the outcome of the mid-year investigation. The Attorney General told the OIG that she emphatically told McCabe and Anderson she never knew anyone named Amanda Renteria, and that the FBI was welcome to interview her and anyone on her staff. She also told the FBI there was no truth to the allegations in the reports, that she had never communicated with anyone in the Clinton campaign team about the mid-year investigation. The office also interviewed FBI General Counsel Baker, to whom Anderson reported at the time of the defensive briefing. Baker told the office that based on reports he received at the defensive briefing, and again, defensive briefing, he was greatly concerned about Lynch's reaction. Moreover, Baker, unlike his FBI colleagues, did not dismiss the credibility of these reports. In fact, Baker informed the office that following the defensive briefings of Lynch, he began to have concerns about Lynch's potential bias, due in part to her, number one, curious reaction to the sensitive intelligence information, 2, interaction with former President Clinton. OSC report of interview of James Baker on February 7, 2020. And then everything else is redacted here. But anyway. 2020 at 10:11, stating that he and other FBI executives had great concerns about Attorney General Lynch's reaction to a memorandum contained in the sensitive intelligence that alleged she was going to use her position to make sure Hillary Clinton was not prosecuted. Wow. She was going to use her position to make sure that Hillary Clinton, the traitorous criminal, was not prosecuted. Wow. So jail for General Lynch as well. OSC report of interview of James Baker on June 8th, 2021 at 4, noting that the Attorney General's reaction upon learning the allegations smelled bad. Yeah, so you smell really badly, General Lynch. You're a very smelly person. Very smelly. James Baker on June 18th, 2020. For these freaking Karens, man. Oh my God. All right. James Baker on June 18th, 2020, stating how bothered he personally was by the Attorney General's response of thank you after being briefed about her alleged exchange of information with Renteria. OSC report of interview of James Baker, June 8, 2021 at 3. Although Baker saw problems with the credibility of the reports, he also believed that the reports should not have been dismissed out of hand. They should be used as evidence. Anyways, in the tarmac in Phoenix and guidance to Director Comey, the Clinton email investigation should be referred to as a matter. In any event, on August 12, 2016, following the defensive briefing of Lynch, Anderson drafted a memorandum summarizing communication between the FBI and the department and outlining the steps the FBI had taken with respect to the referenced January and March reports collected from TI. As discussed above, in that memorandum, Anderson outlined 4 reasons why the FBI assessed the information in the reports not to be credible. First, the reports reflected multiple levels of hearsay. That's a big one. Second, there was a possibility of exaggeration by someone involved in the communication or in the passing along the communication to someone at the think tank. That's a big one too. Third, blank, who drafted the reports, may have engaged in editorialization or exaggeration. No shit. This happens a lot more than people think. Fourth, there was the potential for unreliability due to translation errors. The FBI's assessment of the reports conflicts with that of the CIA, which, as noted above, assessed the information to not be the product of Russian fabrication. The sensitive intelligence and Director Comey's announcement of the Clinton email server investigation findings. And that's what he has to say. Director Comey subsequently testified before Congress that the sensitive intelligence was among the reasons he decided to announce the conclusion of the FBI's investigation of Clinton's private email service in July 2016 without the participation or awareness of the Attorney General or the department. According to Comey, although he believed the assertions in blank memoranda concerning Lynch's behavior were not consistent with his own interactions with the Attorney General, he was concerned that if the sensitive intelligence leaked, it would undermine the public's perception of the Attorney General's impartiality and the integrity of the FBI's investigations. That's not wrong. That's very interesting that he would say that. In short, neither the office nor blank have been able to determine definitively whether the purported Clinton campaign plan, blank, was entirely genuine, partially true, a composite pulled from multiple sources, exaggerated in certain respects, or fabricated in its entirety. Nonetheless, the late 2016 sensitive intelligence, which a senior intelligence official with significant and detailed knowledge of the sensitive intelligence collection described as really concerning, immediately made its way to CIA headquarters. Director Brennan similarly appears to have recognized the significance of the information as evidenced by his briefing the President, Vice President, the Attorney General, the DNI, the Director of the FBI, and other high-ranking government officials within a matter of days. So I would like to get my hands on that. The late 2016 sensitive intelligence, which is senior intelligence official with significant and detailed knowledge of the sensitive intelligence. Yeah, I'm going to look more to that. Okay, so all these people. Moreover, in early September 2016, the CIA prepared a referral memorandum on the information regarding the purported plan that went to the FBI, and the information was included in an intelligence note prepared later in September 2016 related to Russian election interference. Yeah, so an intelligence note is what I would say was created. Thus, the record reflects that the FBI was fully alerted to the possibility that at least some of the information it was receiving about the Trump campaign might have its origins either with the Clinton campaign or its supporters, or alternatively, was the product of Russian disinformation. Despite this awareness, the FBI appears to have dismissed the TI information as not credible without any investigative steps actually having been taken to either corroborate or disprove the allegations. All right, the threat of foreign election influence by foreign government. As noted in the public report, in November 2014, the FBI received information from a long-time confidential human source, CHS, operated by Field Office 1. The FBI also received corroborating information from two separate Authorized Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA surveillances that, all blanked out. Although it was widely believed that, blank, one person, non-US person, directly tasked by the leader of foreign governments with helping to facilitate this plan resided overseas at the time, but had indicated that she was planning to travel to the United States in late 2014. Field Office 1 sought FISA coverage of non-US person almost immediately in order to obtain access to her email accounts and to conduct a search of her as soon as she arrived in the United States. Although Field Office 1 attempted to obtain expedited approval for the FISA authorization, the certified copy of the application was sent by OI to the FBI headquarters for final approval, where it remained in limbo. Again, even with assets, there are people that are bought and paid or bribed or blackmailed to create bullshit evidence or data in order to put in the files, and they don't realize they're getting duped and that they're the fall guys if things ever go downhill. All right. Okay, so I attempted to obtain expedited approval for the FISA authorization. Okay, so we talked about that. According to another agent, the application lingered because everyone was more careful and scared with the big name Clinton involved. They were pretty toying around HRC because there was a chance she would be the next president. So this is what I mean. This is a bullshit way to run a country. Similarly, Field Office 1, SAC 1, told investigators that when she spoke with the Counterintelligence Division Assistant Director and Deputy Assistant Director, they alluded to the fact that they did not want a presidential candidate on tape, even though Field Office 1, SAC 1 believed that was a very remote possibility. Of course, they don't want to be on the record. They want you to be on the record. They want you to be the fall guys for their plans. According to the records the office reviewed, it appears that the delay also may have been partially attributable to a decision to await the confirmation of the incoming Attorney General. Okay, so travel to the United States was postponed. The department eventually decided that it would authorize seeking FISA authority, but only after there was a commitment that Clinton and others who were being targeted by foreign government would receive defensive briefings. As noted in the public report, these briefings were given, but it took approximately 11 months, of course it did, from the time of the receipt to the original allegations. These are dates of different emails, different reports. All right. Assessment of the FISA renewal applications regarding Carter Page's July 2016 Moscow trip and purported meeting with Igor Session and Igor Divyakin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. All blacked out. As set out in the unclassified report, the leadership of the FBI directed that Page not be interviewed at the time that he, Page, sent a letter to Director Comey volunteering to be interviewed, and in fact, no interview of Page was approved by Director Comey until March 2017. Page then voluntarily had not one but 5 interviews. The relevant FBI FD 302 interview reports do not indicate that Page was ever asked about the above referenced email sent to the campaign in July 2016, and the FBI's reasoning for not asking is unclear. They don't want it on the record. Put another way, despite the fact that the email and the FBI's assessment of the import were included in 3 of the 4 Page visa applications, 2 of which were submitted to the FISC after the FBI had interviewed Page on 5 occasions, it appears Page was never asked about the email during those interviews. All right. In November 2017, however, Page's email to campaign officials was explored by Congressman Adam Schiff during Page's testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, HPSCI. In his testimony, Page confirmed to Schiff that he had sent the email in question, which led to Schiff inquiring. Mr. Schiff, Dr. Page, Mr. Steele, in the dossier makes reference to a meeting that you had with a representative of the presidential administration. Did you meet with any representatives of the presidential administration while you were in Moscow in July of last year? Mr. Page, just that brief greeting I mentioned. Mr. Schiff, so the only person you only met with a single person from the presidential administration, and that was Dvorkovich. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Mr. Page, yes, sir. Again, being very careful of the distinction between met and meeting. Yes. Mr. Schiff, on July 8th of last year, you wrote in an email to the campaign that you had incredible insights and outreach that you received from Russian legislators and senior members, plural, of the presidential administration. Mr. Page, there has been, again, great feedback and positive feelings were expressed in public forums and just reading the newspaper in Russian that there was hope for the future. Later, Schiff inquires as follows. Mr. Schiff, Dr. Page, I'm referring to Bates' stamp, redacted, in which you relate that you had received insights and outreach from Russian legislators and senior members of the presidential administration. What members of the presidential administration did you meet? Mr. Page, no meeting. You know, it's insights versus outreach. The insights were primarily based on the materials or the ideas that I had read in the press. Oh my God. Similar to my listening to President Trump and the various speeches that I heard of his. Finally, Schiff ended by stating Mr. Schiff, for Mr. Schiff, and what you have related privately to the Trump campaign, that you had met with Russian legislators and senior members of the presidential administration. Mr. Page, I do not see the word meeting in this sentence, Congressman Schiff. Again, like, these people are so friggin' good. Like, it's met or meet. You know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. Okay, so again, outreach is available and credible insights were provided. As the transcript of the hearing reflects, Page was correct in his assertion that his email did not reference or mention any meetings with any Russian officials. Okay, that's good. But you're alluding to it, and you're giving anyway. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, SSCI, also discussed this email and Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow in its report. The report described Page's testimony regarding the email, noting that he had difficulty recalling the alleged high-level engagements he referenced in it. Page also testified that the incredible insights and outreach mentioned in the email were the exchange with academics over dinner on July 5th, one encounter he had with a staff member who worked for a Duma, Russian parliament, member, and whose name he could not recall, and the handshake with, and what, you guys don't exchange business cards? So with Deputy Prime Minister Dvorkovich and the new economic school commencement ceremony at the new economic school commencement ceremony. So Page also told the committee that the unnamed staffer and Dvorkovich were the only 2 people that he had directly interacted with in the Russian government during the trip. Page's congressional testimony was consistent with his public statements to the media, statements he made to CHS-1, and the conversations CHS-1 recorded and statements he made to the FBI during his interviews in March 2017. Yet the FBI assessed in both the April 2017 and June 2017 visa renewal applications that the email Page sent to campaign officials was evidence of Page having met Russian government officials, including legislators and members of the presidential administration, and in particular, Sechin and Divyakin. At a minimum, the various statements of Page, including perhaps most particularly the recorded statements with CHS1, should have brought the attention of OI and FISC in a more fulsome way. Okay, so this assertion was untrue as our investigators established by reviews of the recording had made of the meeting. Okay, so almost done here. Transcript of the meeting was prepared months later by the FBI. So you make transcripts of the meetings months later. Whenever I've had like any significant meeting myself, oh my god, I thought my meat was off for a second. Woof. But anyways, I like obviously I'm taking notes. And if you're not allowed to take notes in these meetings, then you could put things together afterwards, and just so you can have like fresh memory of like who was there, what was spoken about, the key points, and just have that for your own records. Because don't friggin' trust anyone anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Have a record if you're gonna be working in these friggin' organizations, because you don't want to be the one that's a fall guy or the one that's painted as the fall guy. Okay. Let's see if there's anything in here. As noted in section 4D of the unclassified report, no records were provided to the office that showed that the recording had been reviewed by Crossfire Hurricane investigators or its contents shared with the department lawyers working on the Page piece applications. In addition, the FBI's inspection division found that the recording was not reviewed, and the investigating agents simply relied on the CHS's erroneous report of the conversations. Okay, so Page, that he met with Sechin this past trip. Supervisory special agent, come on. Yep, said blank. Just remembered it yesterday after reading Sechin's name in the paper. Supervisory special agent 1, we need that audio then. Link exchange between case agent and analyst. Yeah, man, I just don't get him referring to Page or Cohen at all, man. It's like they are living in a dream world. That would be pretty interesting if you really did meet with him. Analyst 1, what possible reason would Sechin have to meet with him now? Serves no benefit to him. Case agent 1, I really believe he exaggerates his meetings. He may have been in a meeting where he was one of 200 people. Okay, a lot of redaction here. The application also summarized a June 2017 interview of, oh my God, Klementov, conducted by Special Counsel Mueller's investigators. In that interview, Klementov stated that he was familiar with Page's visit to Moscow in July 2016 when Page spoke at the new economic school, but noted it was unlikely that Page met with Sechin during this visit. The final renewal application, however, discounted Klementov's supposition that Page did not meet with Sechin. In particular, the application explained that Klementov may not have known about all of Page's meetings. That's fair. All right. So that's it for the declassified information authorized by Chairman Grassley over 2 years ago. And yeah, will anyone see jail? Will anyone get fired? I don't know. But on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.